Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in the salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll try to remember that these microphones are very sensitive.
Very hot.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2013 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2012, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Brownlee?
Here.
Larrier?
Here.
Leventhal? Ryan?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. Whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to prohibit or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desire this governing body to comply with revisions and conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Brownlee?
Yes.
Larrier?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Yes. We are going to let me go through the agenda of tonight's meeting. If you don't have an agenda, we have them right up here, and you can pick one up. After this introduction, we'll have a presentation from the U.S. Postal Service. At the end of the presentation, we'll ask if anyone has any questions for the postal representatives, and you can come up and ask those questions. And then after that's concluded, we'll have our regular public comment period, the first one of the evening. Item number 7 will be our Board of Health meeting, which is our monthly meeting of the Board of Health. We have 2 ordinances on introduction. One is to allow property owners on Villa Terrace to park their cars beyond the time period allowed. And the other is to establish a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on Brook Lane. Both of those will be introducing those, and they'll be scheduled for a hearing and final adoption on September 3rd. We have 4 items for discussion. We are in receipt of a report for the Public Service Electric and Gas property on the corner of Boyden Avenue and Springfield Avenue as an area in need of redevelopment. That's our first discussion item. The second discussion item is prohibiting charcoal, propane gas, natural gas, or electric barbecue grills in front yards or porches of residential properties. The third item is the Davies redevelopment project, notice of default. And the fourth item is the post office redevelopment site, and we're going to be authorizing to seek appraisals of the site and potential development opportunities. We have our consent agenda after that, and then we'll have our second public comment period, and then we'll have administrative reports, reports from elected officials, and we also have, on the consent agenda, we have some budget transfers. We're approving some employees to be registrars for the town rather. We have some emergency repairs to Duran Road. We're going to be approving a contract for asbestos and mold remediation at 60 Woodland, the former Women's Club. We have taxi cab license approvals and minutes of open and closed sessions of July. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Mulvey to come up and take a seat up here. Mr. Mulvey is the real estate specialist from the U.S. Postal Service. And, yep, right there. And you will be making your statement and explaining the process that you'll be undertaking for the relocation of the post office.
Thank you very much, Mayor DeLuca and members of the committee. As the mayor had...
Is the microphone working?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
As the mayor had indicated, my name is Joe Mulvey. I'm with the United States Postal Service, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity.
Excuse me, Mr. Manning, would you check and make sure it's,
The green light.
Well, there's no green, oh.
Here we go.
okay.
And we wish to thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening to speak about plans the Postal Service is undertaking with respect to the Maplewood Post Office. Also here with me this evening are a number of local postal officials that are also similarly committed to this project. The Postal Service is planning to relocate the retail services currently provided at the Maplewood Main Post Office, which is located at 160 Maplewood Ave, to a yet-to-be-determined new location within Maplewood. As you may know, the reason behind the relocation is the expiration of the 55-year lease on the present property. The Township of Maplewood owns the property and has decided not to renew that lease. Now, whenever a relocation of a retail post office is proposed, the Postal Service follows a process which includes informing the community and soliciting comment. We thank you again for the opportunity to do so at this public meeting this evening. The present post office property comprises roughly 14,900 square feet of interior space and houses both a retail services post office and a delivery carrier operation. The Postal Service is looking to relocate the entire operation into right-sized space of approximately 8,400 square feet elsewhere within the Maplewood community. The services available to our customers at the present location would continue at the new location. And our goal is to provide an efficient, modern, and convenient facility for both the community and our employees. Now, any elected official or member of the public may comment on this proposal. Written comments are being accepted by the Postal Service through August 21st. Comments must be in writing, reference the post office by name or location, and be sent to my office address. Now, I have a handout that's available next to the agenda. But my office address is Joseph J. Mulvey, U.S. Postal Service, 2 Congress Street, Room 8, in Milford, Massachusetts, 01757. Now, following that comment period, a facilities manager at our headquarters level will make a relocation decision that takes into account the community's input and is consistent with Postal Service objectives. The decision will be sent to the mayor, and a copy will be posted in the post office public lobby. The letter will include a statement that anyone may appeal the decision with the ensuing 30 days and will indicate the address and manner in which an appeal may be filed. If the final decision is to move forward on with the proposed relocation, we will move swiftly to identify suitable replacement sites. At that time, we will notify the mayor of the locations under consideration, and we will again post a copy of the notice in the post office lobby. Anyone may comment on the locations within the ensuing 30 days. So the Postal Service is looking for community input up front in the project, and then after it identifies suitable locations for the new space. Thereafter, we will work diligently to secure and build out the new location. The reason we wanted to make a presentation this evening is, as I mentioned, whenever whenever we do have a relocation of a retail post office, we follow a set of procedures, and those procedures are for a notification to the public, a public comment period, and then an appeal process. And we thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to address them.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mulvey. As you know, since 1997, the Township Committee has been in communication with the post office, asking that the sorting operation be done either on Springfield Avenue or in the industrial area. So it sounds like your plan is consistent with that. We also did want to retain some postal presence in Maplewood Village. And through this conversation of your relocation, we would like to continue that conversation as to what we can do. We have talked in the past about a contract postal unit, CPU, for somewhere in Maplewood Village, and we'd like to continue talking about that.
That'd be fine, Mr. Mayor.
Any members of the Township Committee have any questions or comments?
So, Mr. Mulvey, currently there are 2 post offices in the township.
Correct.
Is it your expectation that when this entire process is finished, there will still be 2, or will there be 1?
Right now, we are looking at the Maplewood Post Office. We do have the Maple Crest Station, which is just down the street. Our lease with that runs for several more years. So at the present time, we are looking to relocate the Maplewood Post Office, and I suppose down the road sometime, depending on where that ultimate location is, that we might look at that property. But right now, we're not looking at the Maple Crest property.
Yes.
Once a decision is made in terms of the location, what's the estimated time frame that it would take to actually build the facility to be operational?
Well, it would depend on the layout of the facility, and I would suspect as a guesstimate, because you wouldn't know until you have that. There is some due diligence that we would look at it for environmentally, and then we would have to do a design and a build-out, but that can be accomplished, again, depending on the location, in a 6 to 12-month time frame, typically.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else up here have questions? Anyone from the, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask the public, so if you have
So
something.
at various times, there's been discussions in the air about consolidating Maplewood and South Orange's postal presence into a single location, or consolidating Maplewood and Union into a single location. I assume from this conversation that all those possibilities are off the table.
Yes, the approved project going forward is what we call internally a one-for-one replacement. What's existing there today, just to move that to another location. Retail operation, which is what the customers utilize as they come in the front door, plus the delivery operation, which is in the back of the building. The entire operation into another location.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who has a question? They're going to be coming up behind you, Mr. Mulvey.
Okay.
You just give your name.
I'll talk to you. My name is John Harvey. I live at 8 Inwood Place in Maplewood. Just a couple of questions. One is just here in the 6 to 9 month time frame, it sounds like it's most likely going to be a gap in service from when the postal location closes in November until the 6 to 9 months until it's figured out in construction. Is that true that there would be a gap in service?
Well, there's certainly could be a gap in the time frame, but we appreciate the township's understanding of the complexities of a governmental agency's move, and we would certainly hope for the opportunity to remain in the present building short-term if that was necessary while a new location was being readied for occupancy.
In lieu of that, because parallel to this is the post office redevelopment plan, which is already underway, would there be the possibility of providing temporary mobile services in the village for postal services, if there was a gap?
Yes, if there was a gap, we would certainly review that as the next alternative, yes.
Okay. Two more questions. One is, you mentioned the objectives of the post office. Are there any objectives you can refer to as it relates to dealing with the customer, rather than the size requirement and financial implications?
Well, if I understand the question correctly, our customer services, the services that are available to our customers today at the post office would also be available at the new location. We would retain approximately the same number of post office boxes, of which about 3/4 of them now are rented, but we would retain the same number, which would allow for other rentals in the new location. And as I say, we would be designing and building it out on a more modern, efficient level. So I think it would be a benefit to customers and the employees in general.
Right. And the last one is just a comment. It sounds like, with communication since 1997, it seems a shame that we're under the gun as it relates to this situation. I mean, we knew the lease was coming up at a certain date. Is there any particular reason that it's being addressed at the 11th hour?
Well, I wasn't involved in the past, but I did, in speaking with the mayor, understand that there was some history there, and we're certainly looking forward and committed to making things happen, because I understand it is a plus for both the community and the post office.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask any questions? Yes.
I'm wondering
Could you,
whether...
I'm sorry, could you name an address, please?
Yes, Allison Blank, 99 Maplewood Avenue, Maplewood. I'm wondering if, as you begin a study of possible locations, you will also have the willingness to look at possible financial impact of losing a retail presence in the town of Maplewood, in the downtown of Maplewood. I would suggest that you might find that it would be a substantial loss. We are a walkable town. There is a great synergy between businesses, and when people come into the village, they often go to the post office in someplace else or someplace else in the post office. And my fear is that you could really lose post office business to all of the other entities that visit one's home and pick up items, or drive elsewhere, but you'll lose a lot in the process, and it is of great concern to me. It's part of the fabric of the village to have at least a small retail presence.
And
Do you have a comment or no?
oh, I wasn't sure if that was a question. The Postal Service, as I indicated, we're willing to keep those discussions open with the mayor and the committee as to how to look at and address that matter.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? I'm sorry, address the Post Office.
Good evening. My name is Norman Scrivener of Atlas, and a couple of questions here. In your recent discussions, has there been, with the Town Council, has there been any opportunity to discuss the possibility of the post office staying in the current location after or during the renovation or the change of the building itself? And secondly, is it possible that the post office could go into a sort of two segments? One would be the retail section for the customers, either through a direct post office venue, or there are similar operations in town or around the country that I believe the post office department is opening up sort of satellite centers where they have a small back to the basics kind of thing, where you take the mail in and It's not, none of the sorting is done there. So it would be two phase. One would be the retail, and the sorting department would be perhaps in Springfield Avenue, and that would encompass the facilities of Milburn, Union, Maplewood, South Orange, or whatever. So the smaller location would be a retail one, still to be maintained in in Maplewood. So,
The project that we are advancing on is a one-for-one replacement, so it is actually taking the existing post office that is in Maplewood and in the village and moving it elsewhere into the community. But we have discussed with the mayor, and we're going to continue those discussions about the possibility of some retail presence in the village.
okay, could that possibly be in the reconstructed building? Have you had discussions with the town council about staying in the current location?
We have not, I have not had those discussions. I'm not sure if someone else from the Postal Service, whether or not they may have had that. But certainly it's the timing here where we're ahead of the lease termination. There's opportunity and time to have those discussions.
Mr. Scrivener, can I ask a clarifying question about your question? Sure. Are you asking this gentleman if when the site is redeveloped, a post office retail presence might be a possible tenant? Or are you asking him, is it possible for the entire existing operation that's in that building to remain in that place?
My question would be to maintain a retail presence in the projection. And I mean, what I'm thinking of there is you've seen perhaps other shipping companies, UPS, FedEx, and everything else, which have multi-function shipping areas. In the post office, I'm not sure whether they have post office boxes where the post office delivers the mail to those. They sort the post, and so that's part of the post office, but it's also part of that thing. And I'm not sure whether that's something that perhaps might be a feasible thing to include, to keep that presence right in Maplewood Village. So something.
I don't think Mr. Mulvey would know this, but we have had conversations with the UPS store. We've had conversations with FedEx about coming there. Also, in the redevelopment plan, one of the permitted uses is a postal facility in that building. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Mulvey? Yes. You have to say who you are again, because the people who listen to the tape need to know.
Allison Blank, 99 Maplewood Avenue. When you indicated the amount of space square footage that was needed for a new facility, that was internal space, and I was wondering if you had any idea of how much outside space is needed for trucks or whatever, because after all, there is a building that might soon be vacant on Maplewood Avenue, directly across the street from the current post office.
Right. Well, we do have our carriers are motorized, and I understand there's 26 routes. That would mean that there'd be at least 26 employees, delivery employees. Then there would be our clerical employees. But as far as, we do have a size in mind for the footprint of the building, but the overall site size would be more taken into consideration with zoning and setbacks, so it could end up being substantially larger than a specific need. But we are looking to lease the space, so the property owner would have to comply with all that zoning and building requirement.
You don't have a parking number?
I don't have a specific parking number here this evening.
But you do have 26 of the, what do they call those Jeeps? I can never remember.
Yeah. LLVs, long life vehicles.
Long life vehicles. So you have 26 long life vehicles, and you have 26 employee vehicles, presumably of those who drive the the long-life vehicles, and then you have your clerical folks, then you have customer parking. So we're over 50 parking spaces somewhere.
Ideally, yes, correct.
Anyone else have any questions for the post office?
I learned something new today. Long-life vehicles.
My name is Ann Herring, I live at 29 Harding Street, and I believe my question is really for the committee here. Why isn't the lease being renewed, and what plans do you have for the building then?
We have made a determination that the use of the building could be better than sorting of mail. And so we have developed a plan to develop that property. And the plan calls for residential units above retail on the first floor, up to 25 residential units. And there's, the plan allows for multiple retail businesses on the first floor, and, or have Kings move across the street to a larger supermarket.
Okay, I was just curious, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Mulvey, thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why you're shy, come on. You know.
Just patient.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dave Helmkamp, 571 Prospect. Just two quick questions. One, just clarification. The vehicle parking, none of that's included in the 8,400 square feet?
That's correct. The 8,400 is an interior requirement.
Okay. And the second question is, you had mentioned a figure of perhaps 6 to 12 months. I understood that to be construction. Could you estimate some elapsed time periods going back to where we are today? In other words, the current comment period, the comment period following a site selection, negotiation to a lease, construction plans, things like that?
Right. I would hope that as we go through this process, that we would have space, locations that we could apprise the community of in late September at the earliest. I'm looking late September, early October. From there, we are committed to move quickly because we understand the township's desires and need with respect to that property. We're committed to fast track it as best we can, assuming a specific property. I would imagine our due diligence would be in a 60-day time frame. Certainly the negotiations can be going on concurrently. And then we could possibly even be doing design concurrently. If that was the case, then we'd be looking at a build-out starting at that point, and then possibly as early as a 4 to maybe a 6 or 7 month build-out period.
I'm sorry, the last thing that you said?
The build-out period, I would say, would be a 4 to possibly 6 or 7 month build-out period.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned earlier 6 to 12 month period. What was that?
Well, the 6 to 12 month was taking that 4 to 7 month build-out period and also adding in the due diligence, the negotiation, and the time frame that I just mentioned.
Okay. And did I understand that there was another comment period after you chose a site?
Yeah, yes, the procedures that we follow, and it's something that we follow on all relocations, is that we have a comment period up front, which we are soliciting comments in writing this evening for the next 15 days. But once we identify locations, we're looking for the community's comment and the elected officials' comment on those locations before we nail one down and start working diligently to secure it.
So that would be another 30-day period?
Correct. This one's a 15-month, and that one will be
15 days.
Excuse me, 15-day, and that one will be a 30-day.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mulvey.
Thanks, Mr. Muffin.
We've dealt with a lot of people at the post office, and it's been discouraging. And so I just want to thank you. I know you contacted me about a year ago, or maybe a little less, but you've been on the case, and just want to thank you for your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I was going to ask you if you have anything to say about Alex Rodriguez, but I figure, you know.
I'm going to refrain.
It's too easy.
Okay. You know, you Boston guys don't like the Yankees, you know. Okay. Next, we're going to move into our normal public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Mayor DeLuca, Mr. Ryan, Ms. Lauer, and Mr. Bromley. Something has come to my attention which I don't think the town has taken very good care of. About 2-3 months ago, probably 4, there was some vandalism to the Vietnamese War Memorial. When is that going to be taken care of?
Mr. Manning,
We'll check it tomorrow, and we'll get back.
use the microphone.
I'm sorry. We will check it out tomorrow, and we'll get back to Mr. Crystal.
All right, Mr. Crystal, Mr. Manning will send folks out there tomorrow to look at the damage and assess the issue. Personally, I was unaware of it, so we will get back to you with our investigation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. For the record, that was Bernie Crystal.
And this is Joan
And
Crystal,
Joan Crystal.
also 4 Quarter Avenue. For your information, the vandalism has already been inspected. I spoke with Eric about that 2 months ago. It's been reported to the police department. Both of them have seen it. This is not something that is first being brought to anybody's attention now.
Okay, well, I don't think Mr. Manning knew, but, okay, we'll get on it. Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
My remark is to Mr. Brownlee. Again, my name is Ann Herron, 29 Hardin Street, and I want to publicly thank you. You and I have had discussions about residents on my block. And since you and Mr. Singleton have gotten involved, I am proud to say that the house is being cleaned up. There have been several contractors there with Mr. Singleton. The repairs are in the process of being made. My husband no longer has to mow their grass, so our house looks good. So I wanted to publicly thank you for your help, and also Mr. Singleton, who I will call tomorrow personally. So I just wanted to thank you to let everyone here know that when you do make calls, work gets done. So thank you on behalf of Hardin Street. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee?
Good evening. My name is Sharon Robinson. This is my mom, Lynette Robinson. We live at 13 Maple Terrace. And I think my mom has spoken to the township regarding the issue of the improvement on the easeway. And we just wanted to know, I believe that the engineer came there the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, and there were a couple other surveyors in that area. And we were just wondering, is the township going to continue the improvement on that easeway of 13 Maple Terrace?
I know you're starting on Mountain Avenue,
Right.
but I would like to know what is being done for Maple Terrace, because from Mountain Avenue to Maple Terrace, the two properties, there is nothing there. My property is one that the physical plant is affected.
Meaning that, in a sense, that the easeway portion of it, that has, due to the continuous rain and storms over time, I would say my parents have lived there for over 30 years. So it has significantly deteriorated and eroded. So what she's saying is there a possibility that the township, since that's running through there and that's township property, would there be any improvements? I know that the engineers came over there, but what's the next step?
So I wouldn't want to speak for the engineer, but I will tell you that there's a broad plan to address the drainage problems in that neighborhood. I wouldn't want to say to you that what's going on is definitely going to fix what's going on at your address, but I do know that it's not necessarily the case that an improvement has to be made on that particular piece of property for to get some benefit from it. We have our regular monthly meeting of our engineering committee on Thursday morning, actually. So I've made a note to, and I chair that committee, I've made a note to bring that up with the engineer to get some specifics for you, and then we'll just get back to you after that meeting and let you know the details.
I've spoken to the engineer, and there were some things that they were not aware of.
Okay.
When, for instance, when my husband took a survey, he had to go physically walk around the area and draw a plan and present it to you guys in order to make you aware that we did not have enough outlets, because you were saying that was not so. So that was some of the things that my husband did in order to bring the attention to.
If you wouldn't mind leaving your phone number with the clerk, we'll just get back to you right after the meeting on Thursday morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee? Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the first public comment period, and we will have a second one later in the meeting. We're now going to move to the Board of Health meeting.
Would any member of the Board of Health care for a paper copy of the agenda and backup?
Ms. Fritzen, I don't think your microphone's working.
You got to turn it on.
It's on now.
Good. Do you need one, Mayor?
No.
Marla? Ms. Brownlee, do you need one?
Yes.
Yes, one more, please.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2013 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2012, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal? Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Maplewood Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussion of the Board of Health at all its regular meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the August Board of Health meeting. There are agendas up there for you if you need one. We will have our approval of minutes, at which point, after that, I'm actually switching our agenda. We will have our report from our health officer. We have a discussion regarding, or a petition being submitted regarding a trap, neuter, and release program. After that, we will have invitations to the public to address the board, and then we will adjourn. Can I get everyone receive the minutes?
Move for their approval as distributed?
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes. Mr. Rowe, can you come up, please, and give us your report?
Yes. We have several special programs coming up. On August 21st at the town pool, Overlook Hospital is going to provide what they call a dermascan, skin cancer screening program. So we'll be doing advertising for that. It's open not just for members of the pool, but for the public. I believe they're going to have their van parked at the pool. So that's an important screening for skin cancer. As part of the Maplewood Loves Wellness program, and it's the program's being led by Ms. Leventhal, we're going to have a healthy cooking contest with all the restaurants in town that wish to participate. So we started giving out flyers just today to the restaurants advising them of the contest, and I went to about a dozen places, and they all seem very excited and enthused by the idea. So we're hoping that our Maplewood Loves Wellness program on September 21st is a good day. Finally, just to follow up on some points I've made before, county health officer, local health officers are having a meeting this Thursday with the Essex County Health Officer to get the county on board with the medical needs shelter planning. And we've also written the State Commissioner of Health as the Essex County Health Officer Association, expressing some of our concerns with the planning on the state end of this. Just briefly, this is a new government service that's being asked to be done, the medical needs sheltering. I don't recall in the past ever it really being a big issue, although we thought about it sometimes. But now it's a giant program when you think about it, all the details, and they're asking local governments, county governments to come up with medical needs sheltering. So it's a big, big project if you think about all the details involved in doing that successfully. But we're going to work on it and continue working on it till we have a plan. So in case of weather emergencies, people with disabilities, medical disabilities, the frail elderly will have a place to go without having to be hospitalized. Also, visiting nurses are an important part of the plan, because if you can stay home and have the nurse come and see you, that would be the best way to go. So it's a complicated plan, but we're going to keep working on it. And that's my report. Oh, I'm sorry, and I did distribute a revised chapter, the chapter on the animals and dogs and cat licensing. The two main changes I made to the previous draft from comments made at the previous meeting were Ms. Larrier wanted a part, and I'm just going to flip to the section. I'm sorry, don't have the about notice of seizure, about impounding, and disposition of unclaimed dogs and cats. That's the fourth page of the draft if you have it in front of you. And so that was one change. Then the other discussion was when should we do the dog and cat licensing, and should there be a grace period? And so after discussion with Ms. Larrier, we decided that perhaps December 31st should be the date you have to renew your license by, and the late period would be February 1st. So instead of running our dog and cat rabies clinic in the end of February or March, we'll plan to run them in the fall, so people who need to have their pets vaccinated can do it then. It seemed like a reasonable plan.
And then you also sent an email out about section 113.12?
Yes.
Muzzling.
And could you remind me what that was? I'm sorry, it's been a busy day.
You wanted to include the Board of, or the health officer's ability to require muzzling of dogs?
Yes, oh, yes, thank you. Yes, that's, that would be under section 113
-12.
-12. We've had situations where dogs are aggressive towards other dogs and people, but it may not rise to the level of where it's potentially dangerous or vicious under state statute. So the best reasonable solution is to muzzle your dog. If you have a dog that acts in an aggressive manner, and when you're walking your dog, and we'd like to have the authority to tell the owner of that dog to muzzle their dog. So I would like it to see it written into the code.
Can you explain to me what the difference is between a dog that's vicious enough that he has to be muzzled all the time and one that rises to the level of danger?
Under the state statute, there's two categories. One is called potentially dangerous and the other is called vicious. A potentially dangerous dog is a dog that's caused serious injury to another animal or person, and that's the basic definition of it. And it requires a municipal court hearing, and the burden is on the state to prove that the dog is potentially dangerous, and so we'd have to, by the preponderance of the evidence, we'd have to demonstrate that to the judge. If a dog is found potentially dangerous, it has to be put in a fenced area that's at least 6 feet high. They have to have special insurance for it. They have to post that they have a dangerous dog on their property. It's a burdensome thing. If a dog is found to be vicious, which we have been to court and done that, the dog will be ordered to be destroyed. So rather than having to go to those extremes, I would rather have a lesser level where a dog could just be muzzled whenever the person is out walking the dog.
How would we determine that the dog didn't need to be behind a 6-foot fence, just needed to be muzzled?
It's somewhat of a judgment call from experience. We've had experience going to court with potentially dangerous and vicious dogs, and sometimes the burden is pretty high. The burden's on the state to prove it, and sometimes it's difficult to do that.
I mean, the problem I have, Mr. Rowe, is what happens if they don't do it then?
Then we would file a complaint in court for not muzzling their dog, and if it's found to be involved in any other attacks on dogs, or a dog could be aggressive but not have been involved in biting other dogs. But a dog could be aggressive and have bitten another dog.
Are you familiar with any other towns adopting such a process or procedure?
Not offhand, no.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, I have all Mr. Rowe's other comments, and if you're so inclined. But this one I think we need to talk about a little bit more, because I think there are ramifications, and I'm just not sure if there's an objective standard for it. And I understand what he wants to do, and I think it's a good thing what he wants to do. But I'm just not sure that we can draft an ordinance that gives an objective way to deal with this. But let us talk about it.
Okay.
I think Mr. Brownlee had a
Any questions? Mr. Brownlee?
Well, no, I think I saw the correspondence as well, and I know there were some other things which Mr. Rowe made mention of, which you didn't speak to tonight, but I'm going to defer to your further investigation.
Okay.
Okay, that's my report.
Any other questions? Mr. Roy?
No.
Do you want? I mean, I've started to work on it. Do you want the modifications to the ordinance? That's the question.
Yeah, with the exception of this thing that you said you have to do a little more research on, all these other changes seem reasonable to me.
And I think there were some fee increases, were there not also, Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I don't believe there were any fee increases, but we did change the late fee date, which our accountants recommended that we do. Set a date for that.
Very good.
So, Mrs. Larry, are you going to have this on the next Board of Health agenda?
It will be now.
Are we going to discuss it or introduce it? Because we're
Ordinance? Well, I would like to, can we introduce it, having not discussed their discussion of the muzzling?
Well, the answer
Yeah.
is yes,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure. What we'll do is we will write to you, we will send you an email in the meantime with regard to it. I mean, there's two possibilities. You can put it on for discussion at the September meeting. Mr. Rowe will be here. If you then want to introduce it, we can do it at the second September meeting, and then Mr. Rowe will be back at the October meeting. So maybe there's makes some sense to doing that. This way he's here for the final passage of it.
Just can't go much later than that because we're now moving up the
December.
dates.
Right. That sounds fine.
All right? So we'll put it
Discussion.
on for discussion at the first September meeting, and then assuming that it's acceptable, it'll be introduced at the second and final at the first October meeting.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Rowe? Thank you, Mr. Rowe. At this point, we have a petition to be presented to the Board of Health.
Pull the mic down.
My name is Selena Sachs. I live at 24 Overlook Terrace in Maplewood.
I'm Mary McLean, 13 Overlook Terrace in Maplewood.
Okay, I didn't bring any more copies of the petition. You know what the petition is. I ask your permission. I have some things for all of you. Is it all right if I pass it out to you? There's probably some extras here. Okay, I guess I should really go back to about a year ago. Michelle Lerner from the Animal Protection League of New Jersey wrote to the committee pertaining to the free roaming cats in the neighborhood. And this petition that I sent, that I gathered signatures for, is for doing a TNR program, which is a trap, neuter, return. I'm not an expert in this. I've contacted this organization because they're the experts, and really the purpose of this meeting is to get permission from you that Michelle Lerner could come and speak with you about setting up a program. All the information is in her letter of how to do it. I mean, I can give you, if you have questions, I can certainly give you some answers, but I'm not the expert. But it's a serious problem, and the neighborhood, or the neighborhoods in my area really would like to do something, and do something humanely.
And I'm here as a representative of people who are not as happy to have cats roaming about our streets at all. And having gotten to know Ms. Sachs over the course of the past few months and talked to her to realize that our ultimate goal here is the same. It's the humane elimination of a population that does not have a safe, adequate means of, treating the neighborhood nice. And so we would both like to hear fewer mating noises in our neighborhood. This is a problem several times a year. We would both like to see less waste in the streets. We would like to see cats not leaving scent all over the neighborhood. And I have realized in the time that I've spent looking into this that the most economic, efficient, and humane way to do this is through a trap and release program. And if the township is not willing to do this, what we're seeking is a means to do it ourselves.
Oh, excuse me, I'd really like to make that clear. I'm not saying the township must do that.
I'd love it if the township would do that.
Yes, we would, but we are more than willing. We already are ready to do fundraisers for this purpose, and we have people who will be involved. Matter of fact, we have veterinarians who are willing to give their services at a very reasonable cost.
It costs about half as much to trap, neuter, and release a cat as it does to have it exterminated or euthanized, however you want to put it. And the population of the colony tends to decrease faster if the cats are actually released rather than euthanized. And it's a big problem in our neighborhood.
Thank you. You can give your petition to the clerk.
It's interesting. It's sort of counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the math on that.
No, there's the document that blew my mind in the packet that you've been given is the one from Mount Olive Township, I think it's called. And you look at the rates and you see how quickly the colonies declined. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that once cats are trapped, any of those that are able to be socialized tend to get adopted out into either our community or other communities. And so we can become exporters of kitties.
So you are asking Michelle Lerner to come and speak with,
Speak with you, so she could, as I said, I am not an expert. I know what to do, but I am not an expert, and I'm sure there's going to be questions on exactly, because they have to be fed. There's an ordinance that says no feeding.
there is.
So you can't trap them without feeding, and to treat them humanely, you can't not feed them once you return them. The thing is here, they are not going to continue to multiply. So they will have their shots. They will, they will not be a danger because they will be totally inoculated, and they'll live out their life, which probably is not going to be as long as a comfortable old house cat that, gets pillows to sit on and everything.
So, whenever an issue like this comes up, I always, think that I'd be interested in the opinion of people like the Jersey Animal Coalition who know a lot more about this sort of stuff than I do. Have you spoken to them at all about this?
There's an article in there that talks about the different positions taken by both government institutions and also nonprofits in the state. And the Jersey Department of Health is very neutral, saying that they neither condone nor disapprove of cat colonies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking specifically about the Jersey Animal Coalition, which is an organization in Maplewood, South Orange. Yeah.
No, truthfully, no. I have not been in touch with them.
I think if we invite this person, we ought to make sure that some of those folks are here for the presentation as well.
So the request is to have,
Mr. Brown,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry.
No, I
Mr.
was just
Brown.
trying to understand. So we have an ordinance which, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we have an ordinance which prohibits the feeding of cats.
In order to
So
do
we'd have
what
to-
they're suggesting be
We would
done,
have to change
you'd
the
be in
ordinance.
violation of our ordinance.
So we'd have to either change the ordinance to permit the feeding of them
Or create a program in some way so that folks aren't breaking the law by enacting this.
Excuse me for interrupting. The people who trap should be the people who can feed. The ordinance should stay. There shouldn't be indiscriminate feeding of animals. There will be, because the facts bear me out. There will be. People will do it. They see a stray animal and they're going to put food on.
Right, but they would still be people
Yeah.
as well. So the ordinance would have to be changed
Yes.
or something. So, but I don't want to, so I don't want to belabor the point here.
Well, I think that,
It does have to be changed that they can be fed by the people who trap them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, really, we ought to decide if we're going to invite this person or not,
Oh, yes.
Right.
right? Because that's the next step. I mean, to be honest, I'd have to be convinced to do this, because I got a problem in my backyard, and I don't want anybody returning any cats there. Neutered or unneutered, I don't want the cats there at all.
I understand.
And so.
This is where I began.
Yeah, well, that's where I still am. So I'm interested in, without any commitment, in inviting a person to come and speak. So, and then I think we could ask you as the president of the board to reach out to the Animal Coalition just to get their opinion, even if they, I don't think it would be productive to have a point counterpoint.
No,
But I think,
I didn't mean
yeah,
to suggest
I think we can get their official policy on it. And maybe Mr. Rowe can also weigh in on it too. We can have a couple of suggestions and then hear what Ms. Lerner has to say.
My first inclination was going to be to have Ms. Lerner come and speak to myself and Mr. Rowe. Would you prefer them just cut straight to the whole board?
I would say yes.
I would say come to the whole, I don't, I think I'd need to be convinced about this as well, but I'm probably not as hard to convince because I don't have this problem in my backyard. But I mean, it's certainly worth learning more about. It's sort of, as I said to Mr. Brownlee, it's sort of counterintuitive that it would work that way, and it's interesting. It would be interesting to have, to hear a little more about it and see if it would work for us.
If you, as you peruse that package, you can see that it has worked. Has worked. May I have Ms. Lerner call you?
Well, I'm going to actually have Ms. Lerner call Mr. Rowe so that she can be put on the agenda for our next Board of Health meeting. That would be the first Tuesday in September.
September 3rd.
Yeah. Third.
The 3rd, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, we come to the segment of our meeting where we invite the public to address the Board of Health. Is there anyone who would like to address the Board of Health?
Joan Crystal, 4 Quarter Avenue. I've already spoken to Mr. Rowe about this issue and with a couple of members of the Township Committee, but I don't see anything being done. To me, this is a serious health problem. What we have are our trash companies staging plastic garbage bags in front of people's residences in piles, not in containers. And then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, the truck comes and picks up the garbage bags. I've seen bags on morning walks that are broken because animals have chewed on them. I see people with opening bags and putting additional trash in, such as dog waste. It's really become a problem. If we had front yard pickup, which in effect we do have, de facto right now, at least it would be in a container which was sealed and not open to the same kind of odors and spillage and everything else we have right now. And I'd like to know if the Township Committee can do anything either to really enforce the fact that we do have backyard pickup and really make sure that the companies that are providing the service in town are actually doing backyard pickup, or else move on to a front yard pickup if that's what we need to do, and at least have the garbage secured in a proper container until it's picked up.
Mr. Mayor.
This is a problem that comes up. We speak to, it's primarily waste management. Waste Industries doesn't do this because Waste Industries has a much smaller clientele and it's spaced out. We have a big problem with Waste Industries in the vans, in the truck they're using with all the garbage. Waste Industries with the garbage falling out the top and all over, yeah. But Waste Management is the culprit here.
Yes.
And to be honest, their service has gone downhill in the last 6 weeks. It really has become a problem where they have changed supervision and they have failed to pick up garbage at some time. They have failed on the bulk pickup
Absolutely.
that we have worked out with them. And it's all about saving their money. We have told them that when a truck is on the adjacent street or on the street, we can understand of the staging of the garbage. But no way should they be sending crews down hours ahead of time of that truck to do this. And I think that we ought to be out there giving out tickets for dumping in the street. I mean, you know, this is a private company, and we've tried to reason with them and negotiate with them, and we get lip service. So I think we ought to just go out there and give them tickets for dumping the garbage in the street.
Is that something you're going to be doing now?
Well, if we get agreement here to do it.
I would definitely be in favor. I mean, I've seen it myself actually fairly recently where, you know, I'll drive down the street, I see a consolidated set of garbage, and there's not a garbage truck in sight.
Not in sight.
Cannot cite.
So clearly, they're not doing what we've instructed them to do.
Mr. Manning, can you make this happen?
I will work to do that, yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I mean, really, at this point, let's just do it, because they've gotten, we've talked to Mr. Burbank, we've given him warnings. He's met with the new supervisor for this area, the regional director, or whatever the person's called, and it's just not working. They're not responding. And maybe if we start ticketing, I guess we would ticket the employees, whoever, we have to ticket the driver and the employees.
Not the driver, whoever's putting the garbage on the street, I would
Right.
suggest to you be the one that should be ticketed.
Right. That'll get their attention.
Yep. So the person.
The person who goes in our backyard and takes the garbage.
Lowest person paid in the corporation.
because-
The person who's going to get the ticket.
What?
Who, if he doesn't do what his boss says, will lose his job.
Yeah, because we have, because,
Patently unfair.
well, it's not unfair, because the company is telling him, and it's unfair for us to have to, pay for a service, and they're breaking the law.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But is there a way that we can go further up the food chain and, take a legal action against them?
The answer is that they're private contractors, so
No.
they're contracting. Listen, I guess if everybody who has a waste management contract decided to switch to Waste Industries, that might have some impact.
All right.
But we don't have
Anyway,
a direct, that's always been the problem. We don't have a direct relationship with them. I mean, we attempt to negotiate different things, but I think what the mayor's saying is that he's tried all of that and hasn't worked. So maybe if you bang on the toe, it might get some reaction.
For the non-picking up of the bulk, I think, that would be something, we negotiated, we might have more of an interest there. But I think on the individual carrier, the person's taking the garbage from our backyard. Once they take it from our backyard, they own it.
Well, I mean, isn't the kind of reverse argument is that if I call Waste Management and have a bulk item and it's out in front of my house and they don't pick it up, isn't it my responsibility either A, to remove it or to get a ticket for that?
No, because the deal is, we have that deal with we made that deal, the town made that deal with Waste Management for that monthly pickup.
All right.
Mr. Browning, you had a question.
Yeah. Not so much in terms of your concern, Mr. Manning, about them being the lowest on the food chain, but I guess I'm just asking from an enforcement perspective. If there's a garbage truck and they've got 2 people on it and they're going around and doing their thing or whatever, is it going to be problematic to try to figure out? I mean, no, I didn't do it. He did it. How do we give a ticket to the individual person who supposedly took it out in the backyard? I'm just wondering whether or not we can just actually give a ticket to Waste Management, the entity.
Those are going to be, those are not, if they're on the truck, you're not going to have the issue. It's the
The what?
front, if they're on the truck, you're not going to have the issue. The issue is that the front man, okay, is blocks ahead of the truck. So what has to happen is that he has to be seen by someone taking garbage from someone's backyard and putting it at the curb. And that's the person who should be summoned.
Right. All we have to do, we don't have to tell the inspectors how to do their business, but all they have to do is take a picture of somebody. If it's not picked up within a half hour, you go get that person and give that person a ticket. They will certainly tell their bosses that they just got a ticket and will get the attention of Waste Management right away, and they'll try to figure out how to resolve it.
Can we not ticket, if they are agents of the entity, would the ticket not be written for the business? Or,
it's
I
not
see
gonna
Mr.
work.
Rowe has his
It's
hand
not
up.
going to work. The person who's violating the law is Waste Management, but the actor of taking the garbage out and putting it on the street is an individual. You have to ticket the individual.
Okay. Mr. Rowe, you had something to say?
I think I just had a similar comment to what Ms. Larrier said, is that would mean, as a code enforcement person, we would have to witness the person putting the garbage out, whatever time they did that, and then we would sit and wait until the garbage truck came, which if you're talking about a couple of hours, which I agree, I've seen that, and I agree, it's way too long. I've heard what they do is the garbage truck is actually in another town.
Well, I
You
think
know what, Mr. Rowe, what does it matter?
Well, because,
What does it matter if they're dumping the stuff on the street and not, what are we doing here?
well, waste management is, okay,
What are we
maybe
doing?
an analogy. If
Wait,
I go in a restaurant and I see the cook doing something wrong, I don't give a summons to the cook, I give a summons to the owner of the restaurant.
You're right, it's a bad analogy, okay? The bottom line is that the guy is putting the garbage on the street, give him a ticket, okay? I promise you that I will get a call from Waste Management's council in Pennsylvania. I promise you that will happen.
Which is kind of what we're hoping for.
Well, I think we should give them a warning then. I think we should tell them this is what we plan to do.
Mayor, is this a debate?
No, it isn't a debate.
Yeah, I'm not saying-
Mr. Desiderio.
I just have one, just from a execution question, it's not a
Sure.
debate. Basically, do you ticket them when they put it out on the street?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Garbage shouldn't be on the street.
okay, that makes it a little easier then.
We pay for backyard pickup. The process is they come, the truck is there, they have a basket, a tub. This is the way it's been done for 50 years.
Okay.
They
That's
put it in it, and they bring it to the truck and they dump it.
Right.
This is done because apparently it saves them time or it is. And I have to tell you, we're not 100% sure Waste Management is the one who authorizes it. This may be the crew themselves or the supervisor of the crew who thinks they can get this done quicker.
Well, that's not my.
This is something to just get their attention.
This is what I would recommend. And I think Mr. Manning raises an interesting point. I would say that Mr. Desiderio sends a memo to their council, that we send a memo to their council immediately, saying that as of September 1st,
If this process continues.
yeah, whatever, and I would get guidance from Mr. Burbank, because I think the 20 minutes to 30 minutes was within the ballpark, because you could actually be on one end of a block, and it could take you some time to get down there. But whatever that number is, that if the garbage is brought out and staged for a longer period of time, that we will issue a ticket to the person who's collecting the garbage. I'm sure we will get their attention right away.
Yes.
And I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
All right? And that's fair to everybody. It puts them on notice. And it just gets us a date certain when we're going to do something about it.
We don't have to vote on that, right?
I think I would make that as a motion for the Board of Health.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes. Thank you. Does anyone else care to address the Board of Health?
Michelle Barbaro, 51 Coolidge Road. I do not go back 50 years in Maplewood, but close. And in the old days, Granny says, there used to be an ordinance against staging. Is there still such an ordinance on the books? And if so, this is your out. This is the easiest way to solve the problem.
Well, that's true, except it still requires a summons to be issued. And there seems to be some issue with that aspect of it. But and the truth of the matter is, I don't know. All right, I will look.
I thought you knew it all by heart.
Well, I know what I don't know, so I'm willing to say that.
But I also would like to say that I agree that serving a summons on, again, the lowest on the chain is not going to solve a problem because, as you said before, that person or those people will be scapegoats, and I don't think that it will.
Do you honestly think that that person who gets the ticket is not going to tell their supervisor that they just got a ticket?
Oh, absolutely.
And you think the supervisor is going to say, we'll go out tomorrow and get more tickets? It's going to get their attention, and they're going to contact us to try to resolve it. So, yeah, there may be, a couple people who get tickets, but those tickets are going to go right up the chain to whoever's making decisions for waste management. This person isn't going to put a ticket in their pocket and then just pay it.
But if there is an ordinance on the books,
We're not sure.
and has been, if.
I'll check.
Well, there's an ordinance, we know there's no dumping. There's no dumping on the streets.
There used to be an ordinance against staging.
But if there isn't, we know there's no dumping of garbage on the street,
That's true.
right? So we can get them.
Go for it.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address the Board of Health?
Move to adjourn the Board of Health meeting?
Second?
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry? Yes. Thank you.
I must say, Mrs. Larry, that was the most lively Board of Health meeting that I've ever attended.
Let's do it again next month.
Are we supposed to be giving?
Same time, same channel.
Okay. Number 8 in the Township Committee agenda, we have an introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 8, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2727-13. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will allow property owners on Villa Terrace certain on-street parking privileges.
Chair, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, with a hearing to be held on September 3rd.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We have another ordinance on introduction.
Yes, Mayor, item number 9, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2728-13. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will establish the speed limit on Brook Lane at 15 miles per hour.
Chair, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, with a hearing to be held on September 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you. We have 4 discussion items. The first is a PSE&G property area in need of redevelopment study. We received on July 17th a study from Phillips Price Greigel, LLC, Planning and Real Estate Consultants, an area in need of redevelopment study, Block 4402, Lot 2, Township of Maplewood. This is the former PSE&G property at the corner of Boyden Avenue and Springfield Avenue. And we will, in a moment, entertain a motion to receive this and refer this study to the Planning Board. And then we will also make this available on our website starting tomorrow, and it'll become a public document. In general, the planner found that this area does meet the criteria. The study, as said from here, the study area is characterized by the discontinuance of the use of a building previously utilized for commercial industrial properties. The study area is no longer suitable for use for the primary function for which it was originally intended, research and testing, and is unlikely to be reused in the future for any permitted use in the RO zone, given the existing building's age and the size location of the study area. And the combination of above factors makes it clear that this area qualifies as in need of redevelopment. Tonight, we are not going to determine whether or not it is going to be an area. What we're doing is just recognizing the receipt of this study and referring it to the Planning Board for a public hearing on September 10th. Can I get a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recognize the receipt of the report, that it be published on the Township's website, and that it be referred to the Maplewood Planning Board for hearing on September 10th.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Number 2 is prohibiting charcoal, propane gas, natural gas, or electric barbecue grills in front yards and/or porches of residential properties. I have been meeting with a couple of residents about concerns that they've had about people having barbecues on their front lawns and bringing out grills, and it just didn't seem to me that that's something that we want to promote, to have people bringing these pieces of equipment out on front lawns and leaving them out there and doing the cooking out there. Certainly, if they have a backyard or a side yard or something other than the front yard, I think we ought to promote that as just a quality of life issue. Yes?
My concern is, what if they don't?
If they don't have a front yard or a backyard.
A backyard or side yard?
Right, again,
And
let's say they don't.
I can think of a few that don't.
And do you want to have people having barbecues on front yards?
My thinking is that if they had no backyard, I would not begrudge them having a barbecue in their front yard.
You ever seen my house when all my cousins are over? It's hard to not spill into the front yard.
Oh, I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the actual piece of equipment.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know that's what you're talking about. I'm just responding to Mr. Ryan.
I don't know, I guess I need to learn a little bit more about this to understand if I should be opposed to it or not, to be honest with you. This is the first time I'm really hearing about it, thinking about it. I mean, on a rainy day, you bring out a little grill on your porch and you grill on the porch undercover. If it's not like you're, it's not like you're running it's not like you're digging a pit in your front lawn.
But what happens if you are? What happens if you are putting a grill out there, leaving a grill out there and...
Well, so maybe there's a line between absolute prohibition of everything and some, what's the problem you're really trying to solve, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I think that what was presented to me, this actually, in this instance, there was a police incident.
Nice.
And...
what incident?
A police
incident.
Police incident. But I think the neighbors are talking about, coming home, driving home, and there's somebody out there cooking stuff in the front yard, and it's just not something that they would prefer to have in their neighborhood.
I guess I'd have to understand a little more about it as well.
Okay, you know what I'll do?
I don't have a knee-jerk reaction that says that's bad.
All right. Well, I think then I will have,
But that's not to say other people
I'll have
don't,
these
so I need to
residents contact each of you and explain the background.
Seriously,
I think that'd be fine. That'd be
right?
fine.
I mean,
I will do that.
I
will do that.
And I can be educated.
I could think of times when it's like a rainy day, you grill something, you're out on the, under the overhang of the porch, if you're doing something that's not objectionable, right? So I would hate to write a new regulation that would, in addition to eliminating objectionable behavior, eliminated stuff that was perfectly reasonable.
How about
And so where do we stop? Where does it end?
Yeah.
In my neighborhood, we do front yard movie night, so can we ban that too? I wonder where
It depends on the movie, right?
I wonder where the line is.
No, I think the line is just what it says right here. It doesn't say no activity. I mean, people do stuff on their front lawns and they're entitled to do that. But this is something that's a little different. And I think there's a grill there that has, certainly emissions. There's stuff.
Certain what?
Even in the backyard, though.
Well, that's different. That's in the backyard.
Certain what?
So,
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Part of the reason for
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Certain what?
Emissions.
Emissions.
When you're cooking. So I think
Those
part of
delicious
the
emissions of grilling meat.
part of the
vegetarian,
reason
it's
to
all
have a
bad to me.
discussion item is to surface comments like this, even those that may seem to be unreasonable. And then we will pursue it more. I will explain to the folks who brought this to me that my colleagues have some further questions, and they will contact you and talk to you about it. And then if you feel that, I'll keep bringing it up, and if there's more questions, you can have them answered directly by the folks who are bringing it to me.
Learn a new thing.
That's fine.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. The Davies redevelopment project. We have designated Davies as the developer for the lot across the street, and they haven't produced. And I'd like to move this evening to have our attorney send them a notice of default, and that we will take away their designation, de-designate them.
Revoke?
Revoked, yes. They're being the developer of this site. We have that right under the agreement with them. They were to start construction by now. They, in my discussions with our building official, they have not lived up to their responsibilities. They have not provided the documents that he has asked them for very specifically so that they could move forward. And if the redeveloper fails to perform its obligation, we have the right to forfeit their right to be a developer, so.
Mayor,
A clarification.
Yeah, hold on, Ms. Larrier, go ahead.
This does not mean that that site doesn't need to be redeveloped. It just means that Davies is not the person to do it, and
Well,
then
they
it
have
goes
a.
out for bid
yes.
again?
No, they have a right to appeal, which I'm sure they will. We are giving them notice. We have to give them notice that we're going to de-designate them or take away their designation, and they have a right to remedy. They could start construction, or they have a right to appeal and explain why, but this just begins the process.
But if they don't, then
If they
we just
don't,
find
we
somebody
can-
else to
correct.
redevelop it? Okay.
Right, we would designate a different developer, and they'd have to go in with a site plan. And they'd also have to, this is owned by Davies, the property is owned by Davies. So they'd have to secure the property from Davies.
Need a motion?
well, I have a question.
Mr. Desiderio has a question.
Mayor, I saw this on the agenda, so I looked at the agreement. Do we know, has a building permit been issued?
No. They have applied for, they had the, let's see.
They must have had a demo permit.
So
They had a demo permit, and then they had to submit for a building permit.
All right, so- okay, developer shall demolish an existing, submit for a building permit for the project within 60 days of receiving final and unappealable site plan approval from the planning board.
They did not do that.
Okay, so that's,
And also, they have, their filing has been incomplete,
okay,
and they have failed to remedy those filings.
okay. Very good. Understood.
So we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So the motion is to put Davies on notice that we are considering revoking their designation for the redevelopment site.
Well, maybe it's, however Mr. Desiderio would suggest it be worded, right? It's
Right.
going to be revoked by such and such a date, or, whatever the proper wording is to launch the process.
1611 Springfield Avenue, Block 3105, lots 1 and 3.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay, number 4 is the post office redevelopment site. We need to move forward in being prepared for the responses to our request for qualifications on September 11th. And what I would suggest we do, as I mentioned here, the appraisal of the site and potential development possibilities, but I also think we ought to authorize Mr. Desiderio to not only do the appraisal, but to get the survey done and to do a title search so that we could get the process started on our end as a seller of that property.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay, we have consent agenda.
I move for the approval of the items on the consent agenda?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. This is our second public comment period. Is there anyone who wants to address the Township Committee?
Kirk Hiley, 506 Summit Avenue. I just had a question about ordinance 2727-13. that's modifying the parking on Villa Terrace. What was the genesis of that? It affects maybe 5 homes out of 6,000 in the town. And there's probably other people in Maplewood that would like to have a parking permit so that they can park all day on their street. So what was the requirements to get this ordinance for that little block?
The people raised an issue of, that particular street is in an, I don't know if you know where it is, but it's sort of in an odd place. It's sometimes used as, through traffic for people to sort of cut the lights off, and so there was, a lot of traffic on it, and so we've done a bunch of things there for traffic remediation and traffic calming, and folks basically asked for permission. We have, there's a lot of places in town where residents have on-street parking permits overnight. There's certain criteria, which I can't remember all of off the top of my head. There are some people that don't have garages, they can get a permit. There's folks, the street next to Town Hall have on-street parking permits because without those, they don't have an ability to park because folks who are using the park and using the basketball courts park there. So question comes up every once in a while. It's handled situationally. There's a list of criteria that the engineering department looks at, and this fit at least 1 or 2 of the criteria.
And also, they have a business across the street from
Yes.
them that parks, a lot of their vehicles.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it.
Similar to the thing that happened on Park. Folks visiting the business park in front of the house, the people's houses there, or park all day. So this is a way of making sure that people have the ability to park in front of their own house as opposed to this excessive business use that's across the street.
But this is allowing them to park longer than the 2 hours.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
which is
if
usually
they couldn't park there, they still couldn't park there if it was all parked up because of the business. Or saying that this would allow them to park early and just park the whole day. I'm trying to see what the benefit is of being able to park in front of your house all day. Because there's a lot of people that you speak to them, they've gotten tickets because they've been parked in front of their house all day.
I think it's less an ability to park in front of their house all day and more an ability to make sure that that heavy business use right across the street and around the corner doesn't park in front of their house all day. If you see what I mean. It's not so much that they want to park there, it's that they want to have the opportunity to park at all, which they can't do now because the business is basically using it as business parking.
But it's still limited. It's already limited to 2 hours, correct? Or we're changing into 2 hours. Did I miss?
No, it's limited right now. I don't know if it's 2 hours, but it's limited right now. And this would allow residents with a permit to park longer. And if there are other people in town that have similar concerns, and if we go out and investigate that, and if there are other extenuating circumstances like pressure from commercial districts, then we would consider those properties too.
Thank
you. Are you requesting the last word, Michelle?
John Hart, and just to follow up to that question, I guess, Jerry, are those principles on the website for a decision? And the reason I ask that is I'm just thinking of myself on 8 Inwood Place, where I can make a tremendous case that there's commercial pressure for parking in front of the house.
I think they are. This is the various, the traffic calming.
I don't think they are.
No.
You don't think the traffic calming thing is?
Well, our traffic
I
calming
don't think this is covered by the traffic calming
I think
policy.
this is an issue that's individually brought up by a particular, by a party, and it is researched and thought about in public safety and also in planning and engineering. So it's a whole process, takes about 4 or 5 months.
The process itself is documented, though.
How you can request certain things is documented on our website. I'm not sure if this particular item where somebody asks for an extended period of time.
This is a situation where this is a residential neighborhood. You're in a commercial area. This is a commercial area that does not have frontage on Villa Terrace, yet the people who were parking there from the commercial operations were parking there. So we limited the parking to help the residents there. and it has had a unintended consequence of not allowing the residents to park there in their residential area.
And I'm simply suggesting maybe if there were some principles that, because listening to you, Jared, I could apply that like I think Kurt was to a lot of different situations. That's all I'm suggesting. Just going over to the post office redevelopment as we get near the development plan and design part of this process. Very specific question is, who are the individuals that will be reviewing the proposals that are submitted and assessing those?
That would be the Economic Development Committee, which would be myself, Mr. Ryan, Ms. Leventhal, and Mr. Manning, Ms. De Palma, Mr. Desiderio.
And Mr. Carlson.
I'm not sure about Mr. Carlson, because he's in the planning board. We might create a wall there.
And so the obvious conclusion is nobody outside of the governing aspect of Township. Okay. Second question, and this was sort of part of the question, is the Economic Development Advisory Committee is on the website. There's 20 members on it. Why wouldn't they be a party that would look at this particular program?
If it's on the website, it needs to come off. There's no more Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, we made a determination that given the existence of the two special improvement districts, the functioning Economic Development Committee, that there was redundancy in the Economic Development Advisory Committee, so we disbanded it.
I would just emphasize, I think, the need that I think it's great that you folks are looking at it, but you are also the people that are creating the plan. So, and I do appreciate, what you said, Vic, about this being a closed process as you go through it. And I just think it's a real mistake not to get other sets of eyes on this, whether it's a specific advisory group or it's by having a more open process. And I just think it's a shame.
Okay. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Else, if you want to be last.
You were serious. You really did want the last word.
Good evening, Anthony Simon, 60 Hesley Place. The question is regarding the RFP process. So interested parties have requests for clarifications or information. How will that be posted, and will that be public knowledge, just as the RFP is?
With the
Questions to the posted documents that you have on site
Yes.
at the moment. Once you have interested parties, but they have questions regarding those two documents before they have their formal and final submission, will that be public knowledge?
If we answer a question for any individual prospective submitter, we'll put that information, we'll put the answer up on the website so that everyone's treated the same. We are also going to be issuing or clarifying some of the language on the website this week on the request for qualifications. So everything we're doing that might come to us through a question of one prospective developer is going to be put on the website.
Bill wanted to be recognized.
Just that we'll create a frequently asked question section. So they'll ask the question, we'll give the answer that we've given to that particular party. All right?
Based on your review of the submissions, and you guys meet behind closed doors, will that review be made public knowledge, or will it be shortlisted and then be made public knowledge, or will a decision on the developer be made and then that single developer will be made public knowledge?
We haven't decided yet. I think we have to see what comes in. We're still talking about that process of how much we make public. And it really has to do with proprietary information that comes in, and it may even be that, and we haven't determined this, but we may want to keep the list quiet so that no one knows who the other person is that they're competing with. But we don't know that yet. We might put everybody's that submitted's name up, just the name of it. So that hasn't been determined yet.
And maybe I should have asked this question before, but taking a step back, will you share your findings and your judgment calls with either the Village Alliance or Planning and Zoning? So you're having conversations behind closed doors. Are you going to share that information with the other committees?
Well, planning and engineer, you mean the planning board?
The
Planning board. I don't think we're going to be sharing it with the planning board because they're another body that's going to be evaluating a separate set of criteria around the site plan. But we might, certainly we're going to have a reason why we pick someone, and we'll be making that information available to the Village Alliance because they have a role in meeting with the people too, before a site plan is reviewed.
Thank you.
We negotiated a little something here just to keep things moving. No, I didn't want the last word. Dave Homekamp, 571 Prospect. I was wondering if someone could perhaps refresh my memory, and I wasn't sure who else to ask, but I had noticed, I guess I can't stop reading this redevelopment plan. I had noticed that between the May and June issue, the early June issue, the language in connection with the view from the tunnel to Maplewood Avenue had changed from should be a line of sight to shall be a line of sight. And I couldn't recall when that was discussed, and if any of you know at what point there was a discussion about changing that language.
The language was changed after the June 18th meeting, so it must have been then.
Well, actually, no, the May issue says should. The early June issue, which didn't have a date, I don't recall, I don't think, said shall, and then the 18th, the June 18th issue said shall.
I don't know why.
Perhaps it was discussed at the planning board, or?
I don't know why.
Because it's a significant change to the constraints on the development to require a line of sight that's almost down the middle of the property.
I don't think it's down the middle of the property, but,
Well,
okay.
40 to 60%.
I don't think so, but that's okay.
I believe it's true, of the redevelopment zone of the three lots together. So I could take it back to the planning board, perhaps? to ask?
I just don't have the answer for you tonight. I don't know why. But I would have to take a look at it. I have to take a look at all my notes. So I can report back at the next meeting.
That would be good, yeah. I could ask again. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Kurt Kiley, 506 Summit Avenue. Just have a quick question about the RFP that went out. In section C, additional information, section number 1, I won't read the whole thing, I'll just read the very last line of it. Respondent must describe the process it will undertake in discussing a relocation of the King's Supermarket. Can you help me understand how that does not discourage other uses and actually does promote a King's Supermarket?
Yeah, they have to tell us how they would have a conversation in discussing the moving of King's across the street.
But what if they were not considering moving King's?
Then they can tell us that.
But if I was responding to this proposal, I would be discouraged from doing that.
Are you responding to the proposal?
I respond to many proposals,
Okay,
not
well,
this one in particular.
If you ask for a clarification, we'll give you that clarification. I think it's pretty clear that the uses are multiple tenants or a grocery store.
Then why do you feel the need to put that number 1 in there, if it could be any of them?
Well, I think it's pretty clear what the proposal says. We do want to know that if they are proposing King's, that they have the ability, or they have had, and I don't have it in front of me, but if they have, thought it out and who they're going to be speaking to.
It's not a condition if they're going to move it to the Kings. It's they have to. This is how I'm reading. It's fairly clear. So
Okay.
Just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Just John Harvey again, just a follow-up to Dave's question. I guess what I was confused with is what is the difference, how do you define shall and should, either from a legal perspective or from a directional perspective?
It's in the definitions of the plan.
Shall and should, could you just share them?
I don't have it with me.
Anyway? Okay. The question, and I was a little surprised by the Economic Advisory Development Board, or whatever it is, not being around, 2 years or so, and still being, there's 17 committees listed on your website. Are there any others that are not currently operating, including the Environmental Advisory Board, who might be a group to include in this process?
What are you asking?
What's that?
What are you asking?
I'm surprised as a resident that the Economic Development Advisory Board is listed on a website. We're communicating that this is an advisory board.
Right, it's a mistake.
By this group that is gone. It's been 2 years missing. It's still there 2 years.
Right.
So my perception is that there are other boards that you can lean on to include in this process. Are there any other advisory boards out of the 17 on the website that are not currently functioning, is my question.
I don't know what the 17 are, but we've done away with the Transportation Advisory Committee, the Economic Development Advisory Committee.
As an observer,
Arts Maplewood.
as an
Eliminated
observer,
Arts Maplewood
it
and.
can either be sloppy administration, or it certainly gives the perception that this group is getting more insight than they actually are. So
Okay.
I would suggest get it in order.
Thank you.
Michelle Barbaro, 51 Coolidge Road. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey and of Maplewood and South Orange. I'd like to remind everyone who's watching this at home that there is a special primary election which will take place a week from today, August 13th. Polls are open from 6 in the morning until 8 at night. Common wisdom is that there will be very low turnout. So I urge everyone to prove the pundits wrong, to come and vote for your choice, either Republican or Democratic choice for Senate. The winners of the two will be facing off on a special election on October 16th for our new senator who will replace the late Frank Lautenberg. If you want more information about the candidates, you can contact League of Women Voters of New Jersey, lwvnj.org, or call them at 609-394-3303. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all at the polls.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Administrative reports, Mr. Manning.
Yes, I have several items, Mayor. A request by the contractor for Seton Hall to use 120 parking spaces in the Maplewood community parking lot. I have sent you the letter that they made the request. I think that we should be negotiating with them. I think that it's vacant space. We're not going to be using it during the fall and winter months and spring, and this would be a good opportunity to get some income. So I'm looking for approval to negotiate with them for this parking.
Move to approve the negotiation.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Right, so the fire chief brought to my attention today that there is a grant available called the SAFER grant, which would which would allow us to hire additional fire personnel. They would pay for 2 years of the salary and the other benefits for them, and the stipulation would be that we do not decrease the fire department by a similar number in order to take advantage of this. The chief is asking for permission for two. I'm bringing it to you. The police have made similar requests for two. You've allowed one. So I would like to know if it's okay to go ahead with this. There is an August 30th deadline. Not sure if we're going to get it. It's a 50-50 chance, but.
Well, I think we should do one.
I agree.
Agree.
Let's get a motion to.
Consistency is good.
We'll get a motion to apply for a SAFER grant for one firefighter.
I would move that we apply for the grant for the fire for one firefighter.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yep.
I wanted to report to you that the Chief Financial Officer is going out for a note sale for $4 million. That will fund the capital projects that you have already approved. And that will be happening soon, and we'll give you a report once the results come in. The next is our new Cultural Affairs Officer, Andrew Fishman, starts this Thursday. So I want you to be aware that that post is being filled. It's a part-time post for 20 hours a week. And we'll say for a farmer's market.
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
Can you get Mr. Fishman to focus on the gazebo music for maybe a couple of September?
Yes, I will.
activities?
And also, we've gotten requests today from the library to use some of the, to use that facility too. So we'll be bringing action there. The farmer's market is open every Monday from 2 to 7, Springfield Avenue in Indiana. In the parking lot, August is Peach Festival month. We will be having related events related to the peaches, which is, we are the number 3 peach grower in the United States, so New Jersey is. Not Maplewood, but New Jersey. And finally, I want to say that the website and its maintenance is my responsibility, my office's responsibility, and I apologize for any embarrassment that has been made. We will look through and cull through the information tomorrow. So, any questions for me?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Desiderio.
I have no report, Mayor.
Wonderful. Anything from Mr. Desiderio? Ms. Fritzen?
Ms. Barbaro gave a great report. Next Tuesday is Election Day, and I just wanted to add to that all of our polling locations will be in operation 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for voting, and hoping for a good turnout. And the next election date will be on Wednesday, October 16th, which is a little bit different because most, if not all, elections are on Tuesday. And again, all polling places, you should have received a sample ballot if you're a registered voter in the township. Again, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you.
Great. Anything from Ms. Fritzen? Thank you. Reports from elected officials. Anyone? Mr. Ryan.
I just wanted to bring to the Township Committee's attention a brief matter that was discussed at the last meeting of the Finance Committee. At the end of the meeting, after going through a number of things, including the note sale that Mr. Manning announced, there was a brief discussion about the various events and festivals that we have in town. So we could all rattle off all these great things that we go to, that we get involved in: Maple Woodstock, the 4th of July, the Pride Festival, Wellness Day, Mayfest, the Harvest Fest on Springfield Avenue, Maplewood in Motion. Administration pointed out to us that we don't necessarily treat each one of those groups the same, and we aren't necessarily completely clear on all of the costs that are associated with all of those events. So we asked Mr. Manning and Mr. Fresalone to give us a little bit of an assessment sometime in the fall of what our costs are to host those festivals, or to provide security for those festivals, provide firefighter monitoring of fireworks when a festival has fireworks, for example, and to understand what our costs are, to understand where those costs come from, where some of them get reimbursed, where some might get reimbursed, with an eye towards sort of trying to normalize the manner in which all these festivals are treated, to make sure that we treat everybody fairly and equitably, and we make sure that our costs for all these great things are at least clearly upfront recognized, if not partially or totally recovered. So I expect that sometime in the fall, Mr. Manning will give us a report, because what we may want to do is put a a new set of policies or perhaps even a fee structure of some kind in place for the next calendar year. Or not, but we should make that decision based on data. So Mr. Manning's going to go ahead and gather some of the information, and we'll hear back about that in the fall. And that's all I have there.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes, I'll be holding my office hours next Tuesday, the 13th of August, at the Hilton branch of the Maplewood Memorial Library from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. That's it.
Okay, anything else? All right, we are not having another meeting in August, so our next meeting is September 3rd, and it will be here in this room. We'll be meeting here through September, and then October moving back to Town Hall. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, we'll see you September 3rd.
Congratulations, Sonia.
Congratulations. Oh, Sonia. Let's have a detailed discussion about it.
Well, my assistant.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. No, I haven't.
Caesar's the manager. Yes, Caesar's the manager. Yes, she wants to do
What a
photos.
pleasure. The Legal Voters of the United States is having a national voter registration.
Okay.
But, you know, September 23rd, at the farmer's market. Very tough one.
Yeah, just, we can set some.